Welcome to 755 Live, about 5 minutes of what Jesus said. You can find a different command of Jesus every weekday at our Bible plan at bible.today.church. We just encourage you to check that out and read the Bible with us. If this is meaningful to you, would appreciate it if you like it, if you share it. It just really helps us get the word out about Jesus. About 5 minutes of what Jesus said is a soundbite version of a command of Jesus, and there's a different one every weekday. Today's command is very simple, but sometimes the simplest things slip right by us. Jesus said, "Follow me." This is from Matthew 9:9, and there's also a passage from Luke that's the same thing, but we're just going to read the one from Matthew today. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax booth. "Follow me," he said to him, and he got up and followed him. Now, in context here, Jesus had just healed a paralyzed man. He told him to stand up and walk, but he had another miracle to perform, someone who was paralyzed by sin. Jesus walked by, saw Matthew at his work in his natural habitat, and he said, "Follow me." And Matthew, a tax collector, which was not exactly a position that righteous people had at this time, Matthew left everything, got up from the table, just like the paralyzed man had stood up and walked. Matthew stood up and followed him. Because in this context, in this time period, when a rabbi told you to follow him, it literally meant give up your old life and follow the rabbi as a pupil, as a student would follow a teacher. It was a big deal. Most kids didn't even get to finish school at this point. They all went through a certain portion, and then only the brightest and the best would get to actually go to the higher levels of religious teaching. And then from those, only a select few would ever get called by a rabbi to follow. So this was a big deal. And Matthew made a quick but huge decision to literally leave behind his old life and follow him. You know, Jesus never said, "Follow Paul, the apostle," or "follow some other disciples, Peter or James." He never said, "Follow Calvin or Martin Luther or John Wesley or the guy with the cool sneakers on Instagram." He said, "Follow me." Now, nothing wrong with any of those disciples that we just mentioned. But in our cultural context, following is really easy. I mean, we can click a button and say that we're following someone. In Jesus' day, following meant literally giving up everything. One of the biggest lies of the enemy in our modern culture is that you can somehow be a Christian without following Jesus. Following Jesus is radical. It takes change. It takes commitment. It takes a willingness to give up everything. Anyone can believe in Jesus. I mean, even demons believe that he's the Son of God. But it takes faith in action to follow him. Well, what does that look like? Well, it looks like doing what Jesus said and following the example of what he did, being his full-time student, like an apprentice in training to do what Jesus did and what he commanded for us to do. And one of the things that he did, immediately after calling Matthew, Jesus went to his house and hung out with a bunch of sinners. Matthew went from his old life almost immediately to being an evangelist and spreading the good news by bringing Jesus into his house. Maybe as the church, we need to focus on following Jesus that way, by following Jesus and taking Jesus to the people, not just trying to go to Matthew out there and say, "Follow me," and come to my church. But how can we plant the good news? How can we spread Jesus where people are? I mean, following means that we give up everything, but following also means that we follow Jesus' example. And he went where the people were and said, "Come and see, follow me, and I'll make you a fisher of men, a disciple maker. What does follow me mean to you? What table do you need to walk away from and just follow? Anybody can believe, but it takes faith in action to really follow Jesus. Jesus said, "Follow me." How can we put that into action?